Have you ever spent hours staring at a math problem, trying to memorize formulas, practicing the same types of exercises over and over, yet still feeling that math is too difficult to understand? If so, you are not alone. Many people believe they simply do not have a talent for mathematics or are not smart enough to do well in the subject. But the truth is that most of us were never taught how to learn math effectively. In school, we are often asked to memorize formulas, follow fixed steps, and focus on finding the correct answer. However, memorization without true understanding causes knowledge to fade quickly. When we face a problem that is different from familiar examples, we immediately feel confused and do not know where to begin. The good news is that you do not need to be a genius to become good at math. By changing your approach and building a strong foundation, you can greatly improve your mathematical ability. One of the biggest mistakes in learning math is treating it as a collection of formulas that must be memorized. Many students see a familiar type of problem and immediately look for the corresponding formula to apply. This approach may help you solve exercises that are identical to examples you have already seen, but it quickly fails when you encounter a new or more complex question. In reality, math is not a set of disconnected rules. It is a system of ideas that are closely connected to one another. Every formula exists for a reason and is built upon fundamental principles. Instead of asking, "Which formula should I use here?" start asking deeper questions such as, "Why does this formula work? How was it developed?" Or, "Is there another way to solve this problem?" When you understand the reasoning behind the rules, you no longer have to rely on mechanical memorization. At that point, math becomes far more logical, understandable, and enjoyable. Many people believe that becoming good at math requires studying for hours every day. In reality, what matters most is not how long you study, but how consistently and strategically you do it. When you study for long periods without a break, your brain quickly becomes tired, and your ability to retain information drops significantly. That is why many people feel they studied hard, only to forget most of what they learned a few days later. Instead of cramming everything into a single session, divide your study time into shorter sessions and review the material at carefully spaced intervals. This is the principle behind spaced repetition, one of the most effective learning methods supported by scientific research. You can study a topic today, review it tomorrow, then revisit it a few days later and again after a week. In addition, set a clear goal for each study session and solve 5 to 10 problems with varying levels of difficulty. If you are struggling with a particular aspect of math, share it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more effective learning strategies and study tips. Many people see note-taking as only a side task, but in reality, a well-organized notebook can help you learn math much more effectively. When your solutions are presented clearly, you can easily review your thinking process, track your progress over time, and identify repeated mistakes. Start each page with the date, topic, and exercise number, so it will be easier to find information later. Do not write too close together. Leaving space between problems gives you room to add notes, correct mistakes, or record new things you have learned. Also, set aside a few pages to summarize the important formulas from each chapter. Whenever you get a problem wrong, do not simply correct the answer and move on. Write down why you made the mistake and how to avoid repeating it. This process of self-analysis will help you improve much faster than simply solving more and more exercises. One reason many people fear math is that they look at a difficult problem and try to solve the entire thing at once. This often leads to feelings of overwhelm and confusion. However, people who are good at math rarely approach problems this way. Instead, they tend to break large problems into smaller, more manageable parts. First, identify exactly what the question is asking and what information has been provided. Then, look for connections between the current problem and concepts you have learned before. If it still feels difficult, continue breaking the problem down into even smaller steps and solve them one at a time. For example, instead of trying to find the final answer immediately, start by identifying the key information, finding intermediate values, and then moving on to the next step. Once you finish, review your work to make sure every calculation and piece of reasoning is correct. This approach makes even complex math problems much easier to handle and understand. For many people, mathematical symbols look like a mysterious language filled with confusing signs. In reality, they are simply a shorthand way of expressing mathematical ideas accurately and efficiently. If you do not understand what these symbols mean, learning math can feel like trying to read a book written in a language you have never learned. The important thing to remember is that symbols do not work in isolation. They only gain meaning when combined with numbers, variables, or other symbols within a complete expression. Instead of simply memorizing the names of individual symbols, learn how to read and interpret entire mathematical expressions. Once you understand this language, approaching new concepts becomes much easier. Formulas will no longer seem as intimidating or complicated as they once did. If you are finding value in this video, take a second to hit the like button to support the channel and help more people discover effective learning strategies. Many people try to learn complex mathematical topics while still having significant gaps in their arithmetic and algebra skills. This is one of the most common reasons why learning math becomes difficult. Whether you are studying geometry, calculus, or any other branch of mathematics, you will eventually need to perform basic calculations and algebraic manipulations accurately. Even a small mistake in a calculation can send an entire solution in the wrong direction. That is why it is important to spend time strengthening fundamental skills such as fractions, decimals, percentages, exponents, square roots, and the order of operations. In addition, regularly practice essential algebra skills, including solving equations, simplifying expressions, and working with variables. As these foundational skills become second nature, you will be able to solve problems more quickly, make fewer mistakes, and approach challenging math problems with greater confidence. One of the reasons skilled mathematicians can solve problems quickly and accurately is not that they memorize more information, but that they organize knowledge into chunks or connected blocks of information. Imagine learning to drive for the first time. You have to focus on every action separately, pressing the clutch, changing gears, checking mirrors, and steering the wheel. However, after enough practice, your brain combines all of these actions into a single skill. Mathematics works in much the same way. When you deeply understand a formula or a particular type of problem, your brain stores it as one complete unit rather than as many separate pieces of information. As a result, you can recognize problem types more quickly and focus on solving them instead of trying to remember every basic step. To build effective knowledge chunks, you must first develop a clear understanding of the underlying concept. Then, practice applying it in different situations so your brain learns to recognize the common patterns shared across various problems. After everything we have discussed, there is one important lesson to remember. Mathematical ability is not a gift reserved for a lucky few. Many people grow up believing that they were born bad at math and will never be able to improve. However, the reality is that most people who excel in mathematics are not necessarily smarter than everyone else. They simply develop effective learning methods and stick with them long enough to see results. When you build a strong understanding of the fundamentals, focus on concepts instead of memorization, practice consistently with a clear plan, take organized notes, and learn how to break complex problems into smaller parts, your math skills will gradually improve. This process does not happen overnight, but every study session helps create a stronger foundation for the future. Do not let past struggles convince you that math is not for you. With persistence and the right approach, you can achieve results that may once have seemed impossible. If there is one key lesson to take away from this video, It is this: progress in mathematics does not come from finding a magical shortcut. It comes from small actions repeated consistently every day. Many people give up too soon because they expect immediate results. They want to understand every concept after a single study session or solve difficult problems after only a few days of practice. But like any other skill, mathematics is built one step at a time. Every formula you understand more deeply, every mistake you learn from, and every problem you complete helps strengthen your brain and improve your abilities. What matters most is not your current level, but whether you continue moving forward. Focus on getting a little better each day instead of comparing yourself to others. A year from now, you may be surprised by how far you have come. And if you enjoy content about learning, psychology, and personal growth, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join us for more videos in the future.